Welcome everyone to the very first episode of our interview series, where we interview Hong Kong founders and self-starters, talk about their entrepreneurial journey. We are here today at the beautiful studio at the Hive, Kennedy Town. And today we have Asif Ghafoor, the CEO and founder of Spacious. Super excited to have you here. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us about Spacious.
So Spacious is an online marketplace that helps renters, buyers, and property investors find properties that they're looking for. Fundamentally, we're a marketplace built around three core, ideas. The first one, building the absolute best user experience on technology, on the website and the mobile. The second piece is creating a strong aspect of market transparency through our data platform. And then the third piece is having the absolute best quality listings and inventory, and combining those three things together, creating the best end-to-end experience.
Excellent, thanks. I want to talk to you about your entrepreneurial journey, starting from the beginning. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So my father has always been an entrepreneur.
Sure.
He literally landed in London in 1975 with a shirt on his back. He tells me the story all the time. He had £5 in his pocket, and he decided that he wanted to start his own company. Bought his first house, renovated it, sold it, and he's pretty much been doing that ever since. And one of the things that used to always amaze me was the imagination that my mum and dad had to be able to look at something which was just in an absolute state, and to be able to see that as it could be.
So would you say that your parents were a major inspiration for you when starting Spacious?
You know, my father wanted me to take over the family business.
Okay.
For a guy like him, he's very old school.
Sure.
And there's a big difference between love and respect.
Sure.
Right? So I knew I'd always have my father's love.
Of course.
But I would never have his respect if he felt like I was basically just kind of, what's the right word, living in his shadow.
Sure.
So I wanted to come out of that. I wanted to be my own man. So I went to University College London, which was a great university.
Sure.
I was there from 97 to 2001. I studied maths and computer science.
Yeah.
And when I graduated, I got a job at Goldman Sachs. Yeah. And he was really unhappy about that, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he said to me, why are you going to work for these guys? And
How funny, Asian parents would be very happy to have anyone.
No, my parents were...
Not yours.
I learned a lot of the things that I'm doing right now, definitely from my father. I think I would say my attitude towards not taking no for an answer, that comes from my dad. But I also learned a lot from my early years at Goldman Sachs. And when I joined, it basically operated like a private company. Right? So it was very much a startup atmosphere. One of my favorite quotes of all time is Steve Jobs, right? He talks about, what is the point of hiring smart people and then telling them what to do? Sure. The whole point is they should tell you what to do, right? So that was the culture that I really enjoyed working in, and that's the culture that I've tried very, very hard to create in my company now.
That's really interesting that you bring that up, because it is a question that I often myself ponder a lot. Do you personally think that entrepreneurs are born or made?
My own opinion is most human behavior is taught. Okay. Right? Is taught, right? So I don't believe in people being born with any innate skills, right? The one thing that seems to make a big difference as to how you view the world and how your outlook is whether you grew up in a big family or not.
Yeah.
Right? So I think if you grew up in a large family or a large extended family, you have to naturally learn political skills. I think culture, where you grow up in the family, I think those things are much bigger influence than any genetics.
Very interesting. So I want to talk a little bit about the culture at Spacious. When does it feel like a startup and when does it not?
It absolutely does feel like a startup.
Okay.
The only real advantage that you can ever have, right, over a larger company is the way you as an organization operate, right? And if the biggest mistake that most people make is to think about a startup as a smaller version of a big company, right? If that's your mentality, if you're one of these people who's an institutional banker and you just want to recreate that banking environment in a startup, you're going to fail so badly, it's ridiculous. So you've got to operate differently, right? You can't just do the same thing as the bigger guys and expect to win. If you're smart, you're not going to spend as much time doing things like testing.
Sure.
because you know what, that's an advantage you have, right? Your mistakes are going to be punished less severely,
Interesting, yeah.
right? So basically, make more mistakes. One of the things I'm very, very conscious of is one of the most important behaviors that I need to exhibit as a founder is to react in the right way when things are going badly, right? If I react in the wrong way, if I start shouting and screaming and start swearing at people, that person is never ever going to stick their neck out again. And that's it.
Kills creativity.
Kills
as well.
creativity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Creativity equals risk taking, right?
Absolutely.
And risk taking is just another name for tolerance for failure,
Sure.
right? So the moment you lose that, you are no longer a startup. You're basically just a smaller version of a big company, and you may as well shut up shop then and there.
So why did you choose Hong Kong when starting up Spacious?
The talent here, I think, is in general very, very strong. The talent pool on the technical side, business development side, people here in Hong Kong, I think, very, very commercially minded, right? I'm talking specifically about the tech talent here, right? They see themselves as part of the business as opposed to being a service provider. Hong Kong as a city, I think, can relate to the region with the Chinese demographic, the expat demographic, income disparities. If you can make your business work in Hong Kong across those segments, then that actually puts you in quite a good position to be able to scale out.
What would you say are some of the challenges of starting up in Hong Kong?
It can be quite hard to get scale just because there aren't that many people here. The fact that Hong Kong is a market of maybe 7.5 million people, it's just not going to be the same as, say, building a product for the UK or the US or even mainland China. So that's difficult. The cost of living, I think, is a big issue as well. So yeah, the affordability. Hong Kong as a city is off the charts, significantly higher than what you'd need in a place like London or New York. Even San Francisco. Hong Kong is way less affordable than San Francisco. So the ability for young people, who are the ones that, inevitably, the burden of innovation falls on because they have less responsibilities, right? They don't have kids, they don't have family. If they can't make the choices to not just come to Hong Kong, but even the people who live here, right, to make the choice of working for a startup versus the job at the bank that gets you paid, it's just not going to work, right? So I think that's the biggest thing that's holding back the startup scene in the city.
So we're going to time travel a little bit. We're going to time travel back to 3 years when you were just starting up Spacious. Go back in time and tell your young, naive self one piece of advice that will save you a lot of heartache and headache.
Well, okay, that's an interesting one. There's one thing I would say, but I don't know if I would. This is the thing I'm thinking. Would I actually listen to myself? I think we could have focused on monetization earlier.
Okay.
In a business like ours, I guess one of the things, I read a lot of books around startups and Silicon Valley and all that kind of stuff, and I was maybe too focused on market share.
Okay.
And 2015 was when we began monetization. Looking back on it, we could have actually begun monetizing much earlier.
Got it.
I'd say that's been the biggest lesson the biggest difference in approach I would take.
Sure. And a final question about Hong Kong. Your favorite brunch place, your favorite bar, and your favorite hike?
I'm a pretty simple guy. I mean, I go for Cupping Room, Classified, and the Shelter Lounge.
Yep.
They're the three places that I really like. Yeah. Bars, Lily and Bloom, and Mercedes Me, actually. I'm a big fan of Mercedes Me.
Yeah.
Go
You
Joanne,
and
go Joanne. Yeah.
Yeah, you and Meg are always there. Lastly, favorite hike, because I know you're a big hiker.
Discovery Bay to Mui Wo is a really good one. Going up to the Morning Trail, that's quite nice.
That's a classic.
Yeah, that's quite pleasant. And then probably Dragon's Back, I'd say.
Yeah. Cool, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
Such
no
a pleasure
problem.
talking
Thanks
to
for
you.
having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks.